Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a source that's really built around a central paradox, and it starts right with the narrator, Rudy Waltz, and his very curious nickname, Deadeye Dick.
Yeah, that nickname is kind of a perfect map for his whole life, isn't it? The source calls it a lungfish, something born in the ocean but adapted to land.
Right, because Deadeye itself started as this passive thing, right? A wooden block on old sailing ships.
Exactly, just a piece of rigging. But then, in the American Middle West, the meaning totally flips.
Suddenly it's this title of honor, almost, for someone who's amazing with firearms. A virtuoso.
Yeah, virtuoso with firearms. So you go from this inert block of wood to, well, deadly skill. That journey, that split, that's Rudy Waltz in this satirical fictional memoir.
So our mission today is really to follow Rudy's path, which is marked by, believe it or not, 2 accidental deaths he caused, and also the, frankly, bizarre fate of his hometown, Midland City, Ohio.
And through that, we're hoping to pull out some lessons, about how identity gets slapped onto us, how we deal with guilt that just won't go away, and that blurry line between art and, well, total fraud.
Okay, let's start unpacking that. Rudy has this core metaphor for just being alive, doesn't he? The peephole.
Yeah, it's like consciousness is just this peephole suddenly opening to light and sound, and the first thing you hear are voices telling you who you are.
Rudolph Waltz, born 1932, Midland City, Ohio. Your identity handed to you.
Exactly. And almost immediately, that people view leads straight to the violence that defines his entire existence. He becomes Deadeye Dick when he's only 12, 1944.
Tell us about that incident, because it's the gravitational center of his life, really.
It is. He's up in the cupola of his family's very strange house. We'll definitely get into the house later. And he accidentally fires this powerful rifle, a Springfield .306.
Just messing around.
Seems like it, yeah. But the bullet travels 8 blocks. 8 blocks. And it kills Eloise Metzger, a housewife who was pregnant at the time.
Oh, man. So instantly, at 12 years old, he's responsible for 2 deaths. He's a double murderer by accident.
Yep. A lifetime of guilt just cemented in that one single moment. He becomes, a total outcast overnight. A social leper, as the source puts it.
But his reaction is interesting. Instead of maybe internalizing that violence or acting out, he goes in a completely different direction.
He really does. He finds this weird kind of comfort and structure in domestic work, cooking, cleaning.
Right. He actually found happiness there.
Yeah, in the kitchen. It was hot, fragrant, cozy, totally unlike the rest of the cold, huge carriage house. And the black servants, especially this woman, Mary Hubler, they were kind to him. It was a refuge.
And he learned skills there too, right? There are these specific details, like Mary Hubler's cornbread recipe.
And her barbecue sauce. He mastered these things. It's this practical grounding craft he picks up in this busy, functional space, which is such a stark contrast to his father's enormous, empty, useless art studio.
So it was his way of finding some control, maybe, in a life totally defined by this uncontrollable accident.
I think so. And that theme, accidental violence, imposed identity, it gets scaled up massively years later to the entire town. Midland City itself basically gets neutralized.
Okay, this is where the story shifts from just personal tragedy into something, I don't know, cosmically absurd. The whole town is wiped out by a neutron bomb accident.
Supposedly, yeah. A truck carrying it just detonates near Exit 11, kills about 100,000 people. Instantly.
And this is the kicker. The bomb doesn't destroy property.
Yep. That's the thing about neutron bombs. People gone, buildings fine. So everything's still there. The TVs, the ice makers, and the fridges. It's all untouched, pristine.
Which leads Rudy to ask that just devastatingly cynical question.
Yeah. Since all the property is okay, has the world actually lost anything it really loved?
Oof. That's a harsh take on materialism.
It's corrosive. And if you trace this idea of disposability, first Rudy's life feels disposable because of the accident, then the whole city's population is disposable. You kind of have to look at his father, Otto Waltz. He really set the stage for this kind of toxic legacy.
Yeah, let's talk about Otto. The Waltz family fortune itself is built on something pretty toxic, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't honest industry. It came from St. Elmo's remedy. Basically, quack medicine, grain alcohol, cloves, sarsaparilla, and opium and cocaine.
Seriously? Opium and cocaine?
Yep. They literally got rich selling addictive poison to the public.
Okay. So Otto inherits this fortune built on fraud, and then he decides he wants to be an artist.
A great artist, yeah. But he was terrible. The source says everything he painted just looked like cement. All his attempts at being deep just ended up dense, flat.
And his artistic ambitions lead to maybe the most Shocking historical footnote in the whole story. In Vienna, back in 1910.
Right. He's studying art, failing, and he befriends another struggling, rejected Austrian painter, a guy named Adolf Hitler.
Wait, the Adolf Hitler?
The very same. And it wasn't about politics then, not really. It was two failed artists kind of finding solace in each other's misery. Otto even bought one of Hitler's watercolors, the Minorite Church of Vienna.
And the source says he paid a lot for it.
More cash than the professor who rejected Hitler made in a month. It might have, kept Hitler from starving or getting pneumonia that winter. They actually hung out for a while, comforting each other.
That's absolutely staggering. Was Otto sensing something? Or just trying to feel better about his own lack of talent by finding another reject?
The source leans towards the latter, I think. At least at first, he was bonding over failure. But things definitely shifted later on.
Because Otto visited Germany in 1934, right?
Yeah.
With his other son, Felix.
Yeah, Felix was 9, and Otto had him dressed up in a little tailor-made Hitler Youth uniform. After that trip, Otto came back to Midland City, and for a while became this, local booster for the Nazis, flew a huge Nazi flag over their house until 1936.
Wow, so that connection went from artistic sympathy to actual political alignment.
Pretty quickly, yeah. And the house itself is like a symbol of all this weirdness.
It's that hexagonal stone carriage house, a replica from a German fairy tale book.
Exactly. Turned into this massive, totally impractical studio, 80 feet across, with this giant north-facing window, supposed to provide, quote, balm for all great painters.
A grand stage for a grand failure.
Perfectly put. And up in the attic, under that pointy slate roof, that's where the gunroom was. Over 300 firearms that Otto collected.
Which Rudy just calls murder.
Yeah. He sees it for what it is, and of course, it's the room that housed the specific gun that ruined his life.
So Otto, having failed at painting, tries performance art instead.
Huh.
Tell us about the prom night stunt in 1943, his masterpiece.
Oh, it's something else. It's for his other son Felix's prom date, Celia Hildreth. Otto decides to put on a show. He opens up the huge carriage house doors. They'd been bolted shut for 30 years.
Okay.
He lights the whole massive empty space with 100 candles. And then he appears dressed in his old Hungarian lifeguard uniform, calls Celia Helen of Troy, and offers her an apple.
What on earth? What was he thinking? And how did Celia react?
It was a disaster, pure terror. She ripped off her corsage, kicked off her fancy golden shoes, screamed that she hated rich people, and walked home barefoot 14 blocks, saying she was ready to die because of how men treated her.
That's horrific. And she eventually did commit suicide, didn't she, in 1970?
Yeah. So Otto's grand artistic gesture didn't create beauty or romance. It just left this deep psychological scar. Total, utter futility.
Which maybe explains why, on his deathbed in 1960, Otto finally gives up the ghost, artistically speaking.
Completely. He tells Rudy, "We are business people, and that's all we can ever hope to be," and insists Rudy become a pharmacist.
And Rudy actually does it. He becomes a pharmacist.
He does, but not before taking his own shot at artistic failure first. He writes a play called Kathmandu.
About who?
About another friend of his father's, John Fortune, who died looking for Shangri-La in the Himalayas. Rudy's play opened on Broadway in 1960 and closed the same night.
Oh, wow. The family curse of failed art continues.
It really does, but the irony just keeps piling up. It hits this unbelievable peak with how Rudy's mother, Emma, dies.
How did she die? It was 1978, right?
Yeah, she developed tumors from radiation exposure from the mantelpiece in their cheap house.
The mantelpiece was radioactive. How?
Get this. It was made from radioactive cement that came from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where they produced the uranium-235 for the Hiroshima bomb. It was sold off as war surplus material.
No way. So the guy whose life is defined by accidentally killing someone with a war rifle loses his mother to radioactive waste from the same war effort decades later.
It's just layer upon layer of cosmic systemic irony. It's unbelievable.
And speaking of unbelievable outcomes,
Yeah.
the money. What happened with the lawsuit money from the original shooting?
Yes. Maybe the most famous, darkly funny twist. Rudy and his family lost everything in the lawsuit filed by George Metzger, the husband of Eloise, the woman Rudy killed.
Okay, so Metzger gets the settlement money.
And he takes that money, goes down to Florida, and invests it all in a big chunk of empty swampland near Orlando.
Wait, don't tell me.
Yep. That land became Walt Disney World.
Are kidding.
Not kidding. George Metzger's kids became millionaires. The financial ruin of the Waltz family, stemming from that accidental murder, directly funded the creation of the ultimate fantasy escape land for millions.
Tragedy literally paved the way for the Magic Kingdom. That's almost too perfect. So after all this, Where does Rudy even go to try and escape this mountain of history?
He and his brother Felix end up running an inn, the Grand Hotel Olyssey in Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Haiti. A complete change of scenery.
And a change of language, too. Rudy starts learning Creole, and he notes something fascinating about it. Creole, he says, only seems to have that one tense, the present.
So linguistically, he finds a way to escape the past. If you can only talk about now, maybe the weight of yesterday lifts.
That seems to be the hope, yeah. It's the perfect antidote to his father, Otto, who was completely trapped by the past. His failed art, his Nazi flirtation, all of it.
Does it work, though? Does the present tense erase the past?
Well, not entirely. There's this great little anecdote. The head waiter at the hotel, Hippolyte Paul DeMille, asks Rudy about his dead father, using Creole. He asks, he is dead, what does he do?
What does he do in the present tense?
Exactly. And Rudy replies simply, he paints. So even in death, in this present tense language, Otto is still there, perpetually failing at his art. The past still echoes.
But Rudy does revisit the physical past, right? He goes back to Midland City.
He does. A brief 3-day government-escorted trip back to the Neutron bomb zone.
What's it like?
Eerie, totally empty. Fenced-off mine, apparently a free fire zone at night. But Rudy looks around and he says it looks exactly the same as when he locked up his drugstore and left years ago. The buildings are perfect, just empty.
The shell is preserved, but the life is gone.
Precisely. And strangely, he finds a kind of peace there. He starts calling this place this site of his deepest trauma and guilt. He calls it Shangri-La.
Shangri-La.
Because as he sees it, everyone who ever judged him, everyone who made his life hell there, they've all left town now. Only he remains, in a way. The physical destruction, paradoxically, gives him a kind of solace. And this leads to one last, really interesting cultural interaction. The head waiter, Hippolyte Paul, offers to do Rudy a favor, Haitian voodoo style. He offers to raise a ghost for him.
Raise a ghost. Like, woo. His parents? Eloise Metzger.
You'd think, right. But Rudy doesn't ask for any of them. Instead, he asks Hippolyte Paul to raise the ghost of Will Fairchild, a World War I flying ace who's supposedly still looking for his parachute.
Why him?
Rudy wants Fairchild's ghost to haunt the empty, neutered city, to be there for whoever or whatever comes next.
A ghost eternally searching for safety to haunt a city defined by accidental death and preserved emptiness. That feels fitting.
It really does.
Yeah.
So we've tracked Rudy Waltz trying everything: domesticity, pharmacy, playwriting, geographical escape, even linguistic escape, to get away from his past.
His father's toxic history, his own horrific accident, his city's bizarre end.
And what he finds, ultimately, is that the memories, the guilt, it's all still perfectly intact, preserved, just like the houses and TV sets in Midland City.
The ironies just stack up relentlessly. The murder settlement funding Disney World, the failed artist leaving behind a legacy of actual murder weapons, the radioactive waste from the war effort.
And the final realization that destroying a place physically doesn't erase its history, it just kind of freezes it, encapsulates it.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with that final, really provocative thought that the source itself brings up. It comes from the local farmers who actually survived the neutron blast.
Yeah, they developed their own theory about what happened. They don't buy the accident story.
What do they think?
They believe Midland City was intentionally bombed, that it was a test conducted on a city that, nobody cared about, a dry run.
A test for what?
Before potentially turning that fenced-in, mined, empty city into some kind of contained housing for foreign workers. Basically, using the technology to secretly bring back a form of slavery.
Wow, that's dark and incredibly cynical.
It is, but it leaves you with this chilling question, doesn't it? In our modern world, with all its information overload and maybe synthetic realities, are some lives, and even entire places, seen by the powerful as fundamentally disposable? Just test sites for the next experiment, something to think about.